the same. And that's important for understanding how to not have it happen to you. So now I'm not a Valve employee. I've never worked for Valve. Everything that I'm going to tell you in this video is from what I myself have been able to test and what I myself have been able to gather. So this is purely my understanding. I've done quite a bit of testing on this, as much as I can, to try to understand how Untrusted works. And I've got a lot of accounts banned, trying to get them banned to see what causes Untrusted and what doesn't. So, with that in mind, Untrusted is basically a system that scans your player actions. So when you're moving, when you're shooting, etc., it's logging those actions. And what it's looking for is for actions that are inhuman, actions that a normal human would not be able to perform, either ever or consistently. So if you are having perfect recoil every single time, if you are shooting enemies when they only hit your crosshair for 5 milliseconds every single time, if you're able to snap to a head and follow it for multiple seconds, and you're doing that every single time, that's what the system is looking for. It's checking for these type of actions, just things that humans shouldn't be able to do. An important note, though, is it's not looking for 1 or 2 times. It's not looking for now and again, because everybody gets those shots that are just perfect. Someone comes around the corner and you instantly shoot them, you pre-fire them, you're just ready, and it happens. And the system knows that. It knows that people are going to be able to do some of these things some of the times. So what it's looking for is doing these things all of the times. And knowing that, it makes it very, very easy to circumvent the system. You just don't do these things all the time. You make sure that you're not following people through walls, for example. You make sure you're not snapping to their head every time. You make sure you're not locking onto their head or any bone, really, for more than just like a second while you're shooting them, and that you're not doing it every time. So the first thing I want to show you is recoil. So a lot of people get banned using recoil, RCS, and that's because they just pull the trigger every time and they don't do anything different. So first off, right here, I'm just going to show you what recoil looks like if you just push the mouse or push the trigger and you do nothing else. Alright, so that's RCS at 100%. Nice tight little spray. It's exactly what you want, right? Well, that's what you want sometimes, but if you don't want to get Untrusted, that's not what you want to do. So the technique that I use is that I pull down just slightly, because when I'm pulling down on my mouse, I'm not going to pull down exactly the same every single time. And for those of you who know how to do recoil normally, the way that it works is that you pull down, and that corrects your recoil. But since you already have something correcting your recoil, when you pull down, it's actually going to mess up your recoil. So we're going to see that here, and you're going to see that it's not that big of a deal that you're messing up your own recoil. So this is with me pulling down. So you'll see it's not nearly as tight at all, and that's okay. That right there, this grouping, that will absolutely kill somebody. That's going to be more than good enough every single time, every day of the week, every gunfight you get into. This will be acceptable. So once again, we're going to see that, and we're going to see why it's not consistent and why that's a good thing. So once again, this is me manually pulling down on my mouse with recoil as compensation as well. So again, got a nice little group. I mean, that's just great recoil control, no problems there. But it's different than this one, and it's different than this one. I mean, you see that it's very, very distinct. I mean, it doesn't look like that a hack created these two, because otherwise they'd be very, very similar. They'd look almost the same. And that's what you're looking for. You don't want them to look the same. You want your recoil to change every single time. Again, great. I mean, that's just... There's no problems with that. You're going to be able to kill people in a firefight, no problem. So that's what I do for recoil control, so that I don't get untrusted, is I make sure that I am actually moving my mouse while I'm pulling the trigger, so that my recoil compensation is not doing all the work, and I'm getting different recoil spray patterns every single time. Now, sometimes it's going to be okay to just aim at something and pull the trigger like this. That's not a big deal. That's going to be acceptable. So next I want to show you what that looks like in action against actual enemies. Let me add some bots here real quick. So basically we're going to see that pulling down slightly is not at all going to hurt you. I have aim lock enabled with the same settings I used in the public build before. I also have Triggerbot on, but when I'm using an AK-47 or any automatic rifle, I never ever Triggerbot, and I go over that why in the Overwatch tutorial. Alright, so here's what that's going to look like. Now you'll notice I didn't get a single headshot there because I'm pulling down a little bit. And that's good, because that's going to prevent me from being overwatched as well. So these guys are dying real fast, and that's with me pulling down. So even pulling down with the RCS at 100%, it's no problem. You're still going to get the kills, and your spray control is not going to really look out of the ordinary. If you're playing in lower ranks, I would pull down even more, just to make it look a little bit more legit. Because you might get overwatched doing what I just did with that tight of recoil. So just pull down more. That's the big thing. Okay, so the other question that I get a lot, and that I see posted on the forums a lot, is how you Triggerbot without getting Untrusted. And again, it's very easy. What the Untrusted system is looking for is consistency. What it wants to see is every single time your crosshair crosses an enemy, how long is it taking for you to pull the trigger? If it's the same every time, honestly, like even if you get 50 MS shots every single time, the Untrusted system's going to flag you and you're probably going to get Untrusted, because that's inhuman. It's impossible to hit 50 MS every single time. So just real quick here, just going to show you what 0 MS looks like. I don't know why that first shot didn't hit at 0 MS. That will happen sometimes where it just won't register. So that's 0 MS. As soon as my crosshair hits, you can all see. So, a couple things to do. First off, and the easiest thing to do, is just don't use your trigger hold key all the time. Sometimes, just manually fire. You're going to miss sometimes, like that. It's no big deal. Just pull the trigger. Like that's all it is. You literally sometimes just pull the trigger. I would say roughly every 5 shots you should not be triggering, and you should be pulling the trigger by yourself. When you're in a fight like this, you know, like if you're moving around a lot, I probably would use trigger, because you're gonna hit. So that was a trigger. That was a trigger. The other thing you can do is that I use a lot is you just go like this. So I've got a trigger hold key. So all you do is you go like that. You put your mouse on them and then push your trigger key. So that what the system is registering is that you have your cursor over them, but you haven't pulled the trigger yet. So that's increasing your count. So you just... Man, this 0 MS is just not great right now. It keeps missing. This is all Triggerbot shots that are missing. It's really weird. I might have a little bit of lag from streaming. So you just kind of like look at them a little bit, like even let your crosshair cross them, and then fire, because that's all going to count, because it's all your reflexes after that. Where's this last guy? So that's part of the reason that you want to use a trigger hold key and not an actual trigger bot. You don't want it active all the time, because that's really going to greatly increase the chances of you getting Untrusted. As long as there's some delay sometimes, as long as you're missing sometimes, as long as your speed varies, you're not gonna have any problems. I can hear him. There he is. So let me show you that faster. So the trick that I'll use is that you're coming around here, you see him, and then you shoot him. So you get your cursor over his body before you shoot, before you push your key. You're still going to hit, you're not going to miss, but it's going to just increase that time just a little bit, and that's all you need. Let me show you that one more time. So every single shot is going to be a trigger here. None of these shots are going to be me manually firing. The other thing to keep in mind, I always quick scope, never pre-scope anything. And, I mean, to the user right now, these should all look completely like legit kills. Again, that's going to help you with Overwatch and Untrusted, because while when you push the trigger key, you're going to have a 0 ms delay. But the game doesn't know that, so all it can calculate is from the time your crosshair hits the enemy until you pull the trigger. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't realize, is that that's where it's calculating from. So that's what you want to abuse, is the fact that it doesn't know that you're using a trigger at that 0 ms. So all those were Triggerbot kills. You see that I delayed a little bit, I hesitated a little bit, I didn't just go through, hold the trigger, and constantly just shoot them as fast as I can. So another way that people get untrusted, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, the only thing I used was ESP, blah blah blah, your hack's detected. Well, if you do something like this, just a sec, let me reload, let me get within range. If you do something like this, the game knows where your crosshair's pointed and knows that it is on an enemy through a wall. So if you do that a lot, the game's gonna know. Like if I go like this, the game recognizes that my crosshair is near an enemy. And since it knows that I'm near an enemy but that there's an obstacle in the way, it assumes that I'm walling. So it knows right now that I'm walling because my crosshair is too close to an enemy too often. Now every once in a while you're just going to put your crosshair on an enemy through a wall, and that's okay. Again, as long as you're not doing it very often, it's not a big deal. So don't, even in casual, don't follow people through walls like this. This right here, I'd be untrusted in casual. Like, it doesn't actually take that long following somebody on casual to get an untrusted. And as far as I can tell, if you get reported in casual, it's not going to really affect your untrusted. So a lot of people have this idea like, oh, I get reported, it's not going to matter. Well, yeah, but if you just keep doing shit like this, Untrusted's going to see that your crosshair's on an enemy, and it's going to know that you couldn't do that normally. I mean, there's just no way I could do this without a hack, and the game knows that. I mean, Valve is not stupid. It knows what people can do with hacks, and so it tries to come up with a system that can detect that. So just don't do things like this. Like, that's dumb. And again, it happens mostly in casual. In competitive, you get Overwatch there, and that's the reason not to do it. But in deathmatch or casual, I see people do it all the time. I mean, I watch hackers do it, and they get untrusted. But again, like if you're one of the things that people are afraid of, like if I'm coming around this corner, for example, I'm going to be aiming like this, and I'm going to be aiming at him through the wall because, like, I'm going to be aiming right next to him, because as I come around the corner, that's where my crosshair naturally should be so that I can shoot. You know, pros do that all the time, is if I think he's over here in this corner, I'm going to start pre-aiming it so I'm already aiming at it. Or here, if I know he's over here, I'm going to peek him like this. So I'm aiming at him for a little bit, but the game's not going to give me untrusted just for that. Because it's not happening enough. It's not happening all the time. So it's not going to pick up that I'm walling in those type of situations. So you can still play normally. You can still pre-aim corners like that, but not be too afraid that you're going to get untrusted. As I've said a lot, I've mentioned to people on the forums, and I just kind of want to reiterate here, the key is to not abuse the hack. Really what you're trying to do is you're trying to use the hack as a tool to augment your skill. If you find yourself relying purely on the hack, then you probably need to brush up on your own skills, because you're not going to get to global elite with this hack if you're using it purely. If your skill is never coming into play, then you're going to get untrusted. You're going to get overwatched before you get to global. Really, you need the skills of roughly a DMG or an LE to be able to use the hack to get up to global elite. If you personally don't have the skills to reach those ranks, then don't plan on getting global elite without getting overwatched. You're just going to have to rely too much on the hack, and it's going to be too obvious, and you're not going to be able to avoid your Untrusteds and your Overwatch bans. So that's what I got for this tutorial, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that it was useful to you. If you guys have any questions, feel free to hit me up on the A Bit Smarter forums. My Skype is posted on my profile. Otherwise, take it easy, guys. Last thing, if anyone has any ideas for what else they would like to see in a tutorial, please post it on the forums. I got a couple ideas of what I might do for the next tutorial, but I'd love to hear from you guys. I want to know what you guys want to see in these type of videos, so that I know what to do to help you out. So take it easy, guys.